I'm Mike Jagielo, and I'm the owner-operator of the Woodplane. I've been here since 1983, and for the last 37 years, I've made cabinets, furniture, and accessory items. I'd like to take you on a little tour of my shop, so I welcome you in. I'd like to start the tour by showing you my little wood storage area. I have a variety of woods on hand, so I'm never at a loss in case a certain project comes up. I can give you some examples of the woods I have. I have a wide selection of native grown oak in these areas, and I've graded those into like number 1 common, number 3, number 2 grade. We have Honduran mahogany, some walnut, some different cuts of red oak, some curly soft maple, some cherry, there's some butternut here, Douglas fir, western red cedar, there's some zebra wood up on top, and some of my projects call for some unique things, and I work with burls sometimes. This is a smaller burl. You can see it's a growth that is found on trees, and typically it's a maple tree, but burls can be found on a wide variety of trees. This is a smaller one, but then here's a much larger one. This one is almost 68 inches around, and it will probably be cut with a chainsaw into smaller pieces for sculptural elements. But besides burls and so forth, I get some of that stuff from out west. There's a piece of redwood that came from out by Oregon. And I work with a lot of plywoods, depending on the need. Some bigger panels require the stability of a plywood. I'd like to show you some of the projects I have kind of in the works right now. These are a number of small turnings. I just wanted to show you some of these were pieces I just found out in the woods. This is just some maple, and this is an example of some spalted maple. As the maple starts to decay, it gets this fungal growth and it gets these patterns throughout it. And all of these, you can see, have some pretty good figure to them. And I have them all set up already to be mounted on the lathe. And the spalting varies in different pieces. Here's another piece. It's not quite as spalted, but they're all going to be destined to be small bud vases or something to that effect. This is an example of a woodpecker branch that I found out in the woods. You can see all the holes. Well, this is the branch form. Basically, that's the way I find it. I just cut it into sections. I have it ready to be mounted on the lathe. But here's one with the neck already turned on it, and it's kind of trued up and it's somewhat sanded. I will drill out for buds and so forth like that. It's mainly for dried flowers, but these are 2 examples. Here's an example of a sculptural piece that I'm currently working on. This happens to be a piece of walnut that was right in the crotch of a tree, so you can kind of see where the 2 branches were coming out of it. This is just rough cut right now, or rough carved, and I'm letting it dry. And as it's drying, it's starting to check a little bit here and there, and I'm going to use those to my advantage and try to accent those pieces. But this is a male torso, and over here is a female torso. Again, this one had a big bark inclusion in it. Again, it's checking on me. You can see the check runs through the back here. I'm going to try to work that into the design. And the shoulder blades still have to be formed completely, but this one's going to be in the round, so it'll be 360 degrees, where the male is it's flat on the back. So these are pieces that are just rough carved, and I'm allowing them to dry a little bit before I finish them off. These are examples of, this is my leaf breadboard. They start out basically in 3 boards. There's a laminate that I put in the center to give the veining of the leaf, but I have a variety of them here. And some of the other boards that I make are, this is what I call my ribbon breadboard, cutting board. This is my quilted cutting board. Again, these are small pieces of wood. And again, this is a laminated piece of wood. This is my carving bench. I straddle this bench and I carve looking that way, I have a set of carving tools that I have on an easel in front of me. I also have a little carving vise right here that allows me to tilt the carving piece in whatever direction I want it to go. This is a piece of maple root that I found out in my woods. I sandblasted it and I actually bleached it to give it that lighter look. But I have some ideas for this, and I'm going to carve something in it when the time comes. And I think it'll turn out to be a pretty nice looking piece. Here is an example of a small turning I'm going to do. This is a piece of spalted maple. As you can see, it has all the fungal lines that spalted wood does. And as you turn it, those kind of make themselves more apparent. And here's an example of a small bud vase that I did. Again, the plug is still in it. This will be bored out, and it will allow it to hold dried flowers and so forth. But they're very unique because they have all those lines in it. And this is something that I look for out in the woods, and I come upon a piece once in a while, and you have to get it at the right time so it's not too soft, and this just happened to be right. This is a cart where I have a lot of works that are in progress right now. For example, here are some spalted maple blanks that I have planed down that will become lids for small boxes. Here's some white oak burls that'll also become some lids and decorative parts for boxes probably. Here's a piece of a cherry burl that might become a sculptural piece. These are some scoops that are in different stages. They're two-handled scoops. This will be dished out much more than what it is right now. There are some staved pieces that were built up out of individual pieces of wood, and then in between I put a piece of contrasting wood. So these are all pieces that will become something in the future. I'd like to take you into my showroom now. As you come in, you can probably see that I have quite a bit of inventory in here. It's rather packed, to be honest. This is an example of a maple burl that I turned into a sculptural piece with a face in it. As an example, you can see I've got a couple. Here's a horse head in a walnut crotch type wood. Here's a sculptural piece in limed basswood with a cherry frame. And up above there you can see I have 3 boxes that I call boxed emotions. Again, those are lidded boxes. They're standing up on end, but the lids actually slide out, and there's a compartment in each one. Here's an example of a small jewelry box I made. I call this a lunar phase carousel box. As you can see, it has different phases of the moon to differentiate the different jewelry compartments or whatever you plan to put in it. They're all hinged. Every other one has a lift-out compartment. And down below here, down below there's little pie-shaped drawers. And up on top there's a small compartment for a special piece of jewelry or whatnot. Over here and down below is what I call a stump box. On the top they have a little pine tree finial with kind of a root section. This happens to be a piece of walnut. The stump itself is white oak, and the tree is Honduran mahogany. This is what I call a phoenix bowl. This happens to be a turned bowl, but it's also carved in the bird, the phoenix design. Here's another sculptural jewelry box. This one is in walnut. Here's another jewelry box. This one is in curly maple and Honduran mahogany. This one features a sliding tray, and it's Has the different compartments in it. This is an example of a cabinet that I've made. I refer to this as a media cabinet. It's made in cherry and also spalted beech as the panels. It has adjustable shelves and an arch type, arch doors and an arch top. Here's an example of a floor lamp I've made. This one happens to be in walnut, that's the darker wood, and bird's eye maple, that's the lighter wood. It has quite the figure to it, and the shade actually allows the light to shine through it in a translucent fashion. Here's an example of a piece of furniture that I made. It's kind of rustic. It's made with red maple peeled bark branches. It has a piece of crotch mahogany for the top and the shelf down below. And on top here, I actually am featuring a curly maple jewelry box with walnut pulls, felt line drawers. And down the wall here, you can see a variety of different turnings I've done, some boxes. There's a little bandsaw box here, little drawers. I can describe everything, but that could get kind of lengthy. But the camera will probably view all that stuff. I'd like to describe a couple small toys that I made in the past. These are national contest winners. I call this one Grandpa's Old Tractor. It's primarily in cherry. There's walnut for the tires, and there's a variety of different hardwoods that intertwine it. This one happens to be motorized, and as I push the button here, you can see that it sets a whole series of things into motion. In the front there's a radiator fan that turns around along with the crank. There's a chicken up on the hood that flaps its wings. The hood sections flap. The exhaust pipe goes up and down. The steering column seesaws back and forth. There's a little mouse that goes around on a drive shaft in there. As the man would normally be on the ground, he would be jointed so his hat and his head would go back and forth. And in the back there's three little pigs that pop up and down. And I built this stand primarily just to display it, but if it were to operate on the floor, the axles are offset, so the whole thing would kind of move in a wavy pattern. This is another toy that I made for a national contest. I call this a spider, as obvious. You can see it's made up. I'll set it down once just to kind of describe the woods. The body sections are primarily walnut. The legs are cherry. There's a mix of other hardwoods in here. But this is articulated, so when it's pushed or pulled, all the legs move at different intervals. The eyes roll back and forth, and the pinchers open and close. And if I do it a little faster, you can kind of get a feel for it. Thanks for watching my video. To contact me, please check out my website, and I invite you to come visit me at my shop sometime. Thanks again.